What's up, Front Yard family? Jay here with my good friend Herms from Fantasy Pros and the Lateral Show podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the Cougar Hunter himself, Zach Wilson, and his fantasy outlook for the 2022 season. Herms, let's just go ahead and get right into it. What do you like about Zach Wilson for this upcoming season?
I mean, just look at the team that's going to be around him compared to last season. I mean, like, not only do they add somebody like Breece Hall to that backfield to really give them that oomph, but also Garrett Wilson, pretty dang good receiver, on top of already having Elijah Moore. But, like, dude, it's that offensive line that theoretically will only continue to get better. Hopefully, Mekhi Becton has some better injury luck. It's another year with Elijah Vera Tucker as a professional. Like, I mean, in terms of young quarterbacks, the best thing that you want to see a team do is start to build around them, and that's exactly what they did.
Yep, I could not agree more. That's the biggest positive for me as well. You know, they went out and signed Laken Tomlinson. They drafted Max Mitchell in the third round. They signed two. I really like they're underrated for fantasy, but I think they're better in real life NFL terms. Signing two tight ends in both CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. They're both capable pass catchers, not amazing by any means, but they're capable. And the great thing about them is they're both great blockers in the passing game and the run game. They drafted Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, who is also a run blocking tight end. He can catch a little bit, but he's more known for his blocking. I really like that they're putting the run first, and which is going to put him in a scenario where he's able to succeed. It's not going to be this team is going to be completely on his shoulders. He's got pretty solid weapons as well, and Garrett Wilson, and they took in the first round, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and you know what? I really think that this 1-2 punch in the backfield, Breece Hall is going to be the one, but Michael Carter last year really showed that he can produce as well too. So I like what they're building around him. He was great in the red zone. He had the fourth best QBR in the red zone. He was pretty solid with deep ball accuracy, and he did get some stuff done on the ground. He had 11 carries in the red zone, 4 rushing touchdowns. So I think that while he did struggle in his rookie season, I think there is some signs of hope.
No, for sure, man. And I also just really want to reiterate the point that you made about Michael Carter. Like, exactly how much he cuts into Breece Hall, who knows? But if you remember, when he was playing at North Carolina, he shared a backfield pretty well, working in tandem with somebody else. So this may not be super relevant for fantasy per se, but just in terms of real life, how the offense is going to function, if he is just relegated to being, kind of just like the specialty satellite guy, that's not a bad thing to be able to have that safety valve in certain packages. Like, shout out Zach Wilson. He has so much going for him.
Exactly, and that's the point I was trying to make, and I'm glad you brought that up with the Uzomah and the Conklin signings. Too often we get stuck with looking at everything through a fantasy lens, and these signings, that draft pick of Carter and the signing of Conklin and Uzomah, I think from a real football standpoint are great for Wilson, which in turn, those guys not necessarily who you're looking at in fantasy, but for him, I think it's a net positive.
100% my guy. Dude, man, so many good positives. So many
good positives. Well, not everything's positive. There's definitely some negatives with Zach Wilson, and let's go ahead and look at those. What do you not like with Zach Wilson for this upcoming season?
Well, I mean, I got to be honest. When watching the Jets on Red Zone or whenever they were on, televised TV. That's how
televised TV.
Yes. Hey, so there you go. Hey, so that's Fantasy Pros pays me the big bucks for a reason. But like whenever I would watch them, one of the things that really bothered me the most about Zach Wilson was this instinct in him to keep every play alive and keep every play going, which, while admirable, is not always the responsible thing to do with the football in your hands. Sometimes, as a professional NFL quarterback, you have to know when to throw the ball away, just say, screw it, let's move on to the next play. And so many times, he'd roll out, do the thing, be like, oh, no, I got this, I swear. And then they would just lose like 9 yards or something. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, what did that help there, Zachy? And then the other part of it for me that I think is huge, especially this ties in, I think, more so for fantasy football than anything else. Maybe less about Zach Wilson, but more specifically Elijah Moore. He had the greatest amount of success last season with Mike White as the quarterback. Like Zach Wilson was hurt and out of the lineup by the time Elijah Moore really found a lot of those targets and scored a lot of those touchdowns. We don't know how good the rapport is between Wilson and Elijah Moore. So people are, his ADP is creeping up a little bit to the point where it's like, whoa, slow down. Yes, Elijah Moore is very talented, but a lot of that production came without Wilson. We don't know how good that's going to be.
Yeah. Very similar to a situation, which that's another video, but Mark Andrews, had his best games when Lamar Jackson was out of the lineup. So that's a similar situation where, while I like Mark Andrews, I like Elijah Mitchell, you got to be careful buying all the risk. And I'm with you on that. But those are two other videos that we'll do. And it was not pretty for Zach Wilson last year. He was 31st in yards per attempt, 33rd in clean pocket completion percentage, pressured completion percentage, play action completion percentage. And last time I checked Herms, and correct me if I'm wrong, he finished 33rd. I think there's 32 teams in the NFL. Is that correct? So that's
Checks
not
out.
too good. He was 30th in QBR. There's really nothing positive to say about his play last year other than the few things that we touched on. Really, the biggest thing is that hopefully this team building around him, they're seemingly putting the run first. Their goal is to have a system similar to what was in San Francisco. They obviously, Jimmy G put up solid numbers. I think Zach Wilson, talent-wise, is a much better quarterback than Jimmy G. Jimmy G is more of a game manager, where I do still see some, explosiveness out of Zach Wilson. It's possible. But the biggest thing for me, and we'll go ahead and jump into our name game, is where you have to take him. Like his ADP is pretty much rock bottom right now. And name game, what we're going to do here is I've got 5 guys who are currently going around his ADP. And as the season gets closer, that's, things are going to change, but I think these 5 names are going to be close to where he's at. He is currently quarterback 22, according to 4for4 off the board. Herms, we'll just start with you. You're on the clock. These 2 players are on the board. Who are you taking, Mac Jones or Zach Wilson?
I feel a little better about Mac Jones just because, unlike Zach Wilson, we can kind of trust Mac Jones to be able to manage the game a little bit better. And when you're taking quarterbacks that late, I do, at least for me personally, tend to go a little bit more toward the safer options. And then also, there's a lot of things I could say about Mac Jones. I actually kind of like him a lot. But
one thing before we go any further, I did want to say, it can be a different answer for one QB versus Superflex, because I do think the context there, where you're going to take the player, it depends on roster construction. So I did want to say that if you've got a different take for Superflex versus one QB, go for it.
Honestly, in a Superflex league, I would be probably more likely to take the shot on Zach Wilson just because of the fact that he does have that explosive arm talent in him to be able to do some of those long throws. Like at that point, especially think about it. Like if you already have 2 quarterbacks and you're looking for a third at that point, if you want to go aggressive earlier in your draft in Superflex with quarterback, then you absolutely take Zach Wilson, because if it works out, we already mentioned all the names. That's a lot of talent he has around him. But if you're looking, I guess, specifically for your second quarterback, I would still probably err a little bit more toward Mac Jones, because hopefully this year they won't have a game where he only throws 3 times.
That's what I was going to say. Mac Jones is safer unless he throws the ball less than 5 times in one game. And the reason I brought up a Superflex thing is I just recently did a video with Jeff Bell on Justin Fields, and that's pretty much the exact point I was trying to make with Zach Wilson. Superflex league, if you go, if you're much safer with your first pick, if you go for a stud quarterback, the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrows, then you're definitely going to take the shot on Zach Wilson. You want that guy to be your QB2, because if they're able to take the next step up and become that high-end QB2, you're in a really, really good position. Now, if you wait and you go with, let's say your Kirk Cousins, your Derek Carrs as your QB1, you might want to think about taking Mac Jones as your QB2 just for that safety. Me, myself, I am not one to play it safe. So in pretty much every scenario, I'm going to go Zach Wilson because I want that upside. But I can definitely see the argument, if you're wanting to play it safer with your QB2 in a Superflex league, then leaning towards Mac Jones. But for me, it's Wilson in this scenario.
I feel that.
Another guy who is getting a lot of hype this offseason that just changed teams, Matt Ryan or Zach Wilson.
I got to be honest, man. I'm pretty excited about Matt Ryan because up until this past season, where obviously we all remember Calvin Ridley stepping away, no really good receivers behind him. No offense to Russell Gage, but like the entire core was not very good.
Russell Gage is not a wide receiver one, and he was thrust in that role.
Exactly. I mean, it was basically just rookie Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson out of the backfield as the primary weapons for him to throw to. But before this past season, Matt Ryan has been reliably hovering close to QB1 value and going out to Indianapolis and immediately pairing up with somebody as talented as Michael Pittman, having somebody like Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines in the backfield to be able to check down to. I mean, he's had success with that in the past. I don't know. I just think the combination of the weapons that he is going to have in the Frank Reich-led offense in Indianapolis is going to be huge for Matt Ryan. Regardless whether it's 1 QB or Superflex, I'm going Matt Ryan. Spoiler, I actually just took Matt Ryan as my QB1 in the Scott Fish Bowl. So, like,
maybe slight bias there, just a little bit, but that's okay. I get it. I agree with everything that you said, but I'm a little concerned about Matt Ryan more than most, and not necessarily because of his talent, but the stage we're at is in his career. I feel like this could be another Phillip Rivers situation where he's going to be just good enough. There's definitely going to be some big games, don't get me wrong, but this is a run-first team. I mean, they're phenomenal offensive line, one of the best in the NFL. But behind Michael Pittman, what else do they have for a pass catcher perspective? I mean, Paris Campbell, the Alec Pierce, the rookie. Yeah. So I don't expect these high-flying games to come from a passing perspective from the Colts. Matt Ryan's a safer pick, but like I said, for me, I'm not the type of guy that goes with the safer pick a lot of times. So pretty much everywhere, I would go with Zach Wilson over Matt Ryan.
I dig the vibe. I get it.
Yeah, and it's not – I think Matt Ryan's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a solid quarterback, especially QB2. But give me the upside of Wilson. Another guy that is a fan favorite and is stuck around with New Orleans after coming off a serious injury, Jameis Winston or Zach Wilson?
I got to be honest. If everything works out for New Orleans, and by everything working out, I mean healthy, willing to participate and play football Mike Thomas. There are some rumors that an Alvin Kamara suspension may not come down until the 2023 season. And bringing in Chris Olave, bringing in Jarvis Landry, wow, that's actually a pretty good group of weapons he'll have to work with. And I saw he's already working out without the brace after tearing the ACL. Jameis Winston has a lot going for him. Like, yes, everybody knows, like the, pre-LASIK Jameis Winston and the interceptions, but that same thing and that same risk does apply to Zach Wilson. And for as much as we talked about how good those weapons in New York are going to be, and they really are, New Orleans has a lot more going for them at this particular moment in time. Dynasty, different answer. But if we're looking at 2022, just for this season, I think I would probably be willing to take the chance on Jameis Winston if this perfect world that I think could exist comes true.
Yeah, this one, since we've decided to do this video, I flip-flopped on my answer multiple times. This one is really a coin toss for me. Yeah. I think I am going to lean Jameis Winston. The only thing, there's definitely, like you said, there's question marks on both sides with these guys, especially, you're looking at quarterback 20, whatever coming off the board. There's going to be question marks. But we've seen Jameis Winston have those big seasons. We've seen him perform on the NFL level, and that was pre-LASIK Jameis. I'm a little worried about the weapons if Michael Thomas doesn't come back. I love Chris Olave, but, it's a lot of times, we've been spoiled the past 2 seasons with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson with rookies coming in and producing right away. That's not the norm. So, it could definitely, you could see some struggles with Chris Olave. I have a lot of Olave I feel like that's a good team name.
A lot of Olave. Yeah, that feels good. That feels right off the tongue.
You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to say anything else. No, Jameis Winston. No, there's what is Jarvis Landry at this point in his career? I like the idea of Michael Thomas, even if he's 70% of what Michael Thomas used to be. Michael Thomas, Olave, and Jameis Winston. But Michael Thomas isn't there. Olave's thrust in the wide receiver 1 role. Jameis isn't the type of guy that's going to use a Jarvis Landry, a check down type of guy. You know what I mean? He likes to sling the ball. There's just a lot of question marks. We don't know what this offense is going to look like without Sean Payton. We don't know what's going to happen with Kamara. So there's a lot of question marks, and I feel like I'm arguing against Jameis, but I got to go Jameis. It's tough. It really is a coin flip, and you could ask me this question in 30 seconds, and I could switch my answer. This one by far is the closest one for me.
It's right in that tier, man. It's right in that tier. And there's a reason all those quarterbacks are down there anyway. So I get that.
Next name on the list is going to be Ryan Tannehill or Zach Wilson.
Oh man, I got to be honest. In a world where
exactly, yeah, that says it all.
Pretty much, yeah. Because like in a world where AJ Brown doesn't get traded away from this team, then this is a very easy answer for me. But and like, look, no offense to Robert Woods, tremendous career up to this point, but he's getting a little older and coming off of an ACL injury of his own. And then Treylon Burks, like, I'm not really too worried about some of the asthma issues he's been having, or at least that's been the rumor, keeping him out of some mini camp stuff. He'll figure it out. A lot of athletes play with asthma, but it's just the lack of experience and the lack of rapport that he has with a lot of the new weapons. It's going to be a run-first offense anyway, because, I mean, hey, if you have Derrick Henry on your team, you're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry.
So run first or run second and a run third offense, let's be honest.
Oh, for sure. So, like, at that point, there's not much of a ceiling for Ryan Tannehill. Like, that is very much just going only for safety. You kind of have to go for upside at that point. Tannehill's just a little bit too boring for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's Zach Wilson, without a doubt, at this point in their careers, with the situation with the teams, with the weapons that they have on their teams. With A.J. Brown, like you said, this might be a little bit more of a difficult call, but I'm going Zach Wilson without hesitation.
For sure.
We got one more on this list. This guy is somebody who I think honestly gets a little too much hate when it comes to a fantasy perspective, but Carson Wentz or Zach Wilson?
God, okay. Honestly, and I hate that I'm about to say this. I'm probably going to take Carson Wentz. And like, look, I love dunking on the Washington Commanders more than anything in the world. They are a team that, completely isolated me from ever wanting to root for them ever again. So if they do poorly, fine by me. But in fairness, Terry McLaurin, super, super good. Jahan Dotson, I mean, just looking at what he was able to accomplish at Penn State, like, yeah, he's a little bit of a smaller guy, but the dude can absolutely ball out. Also, the little kind of like secret, who knows, maybe secret weapon they have going for them, Curtis Samuel. If he comes back and ends up being healthy with his familiarity with the coaching staff dating back to his days in Carolina, everything that we said hyping him up before 2021 applies in 2022. It's just that the only thing that changed is that we didn't really see him for a whole year. So I gotta be honest, Carson Wentz has better weapons than he's given credit for. Frankly, and I just got finished talking about how much I like Matt Ryan's situation in Indianapolis. Carson Wentz was just there, and I think he has a better group of weapons now than he did when he was over there. So just, it feels gross to say, but it's the NFC East. You never know. Those games get wild. If he ends up, balling out and having some fun, it wouldn't shock me. And that's not even talking about the running backs that he has behind him, and that's a whole other thing. But I hate myself for doing this, but give me Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. This is probably the most surprising one on any of them, but I'm taking Carson Wentz in this situation. He wasn't as bad, especially from a fantasy perspective, as people give him crap for it. The reason that he's not in Indianapolis anymore was more of locker room reasons. They said he was a baby, needed to be coddled, stuff like that. Just didn't mesh well in the locker room, and I really like the situation in Washington. I think that while he doesn't necessarily have the ceiling that Wilson has, he's got a much safer floor, in my opinion. I will say Carson Wentz is the only player in any sport I've ever seen to sprain both ankles in a single play. Now, that takes talent. You got to take that into consideration, especially if you're playing in point per sprain ankle leagues, because you get 2 for 1 there. So.
I mean, come on. At that premium, perfect.
What else did you ask for? But that's going to be it for the Zach Wilson Fantasy Outlook for 2022. Make sure you give the video a like, and make sure you subscribe to Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube. We've got a lot more fantasy outlooks coming along as the season continues to creep closer.